Hello, guys. I am now in like a thunderstorm that started exactly 59 seconds ago. I don't know if y'all can hear that. Actually, let me pull up the video to see. But welcome to everyone who's already here. Hello, Grace and Ariel, Ariel. I don't know. Um, First, let me show you guys something because we need to talk about it because it just happened. It just happened, and I'm not okay. I'm actually not okay. Let me see if I can pull this up. I'm gonna put an image on screen now, and we can talk about it. We can talk about what it is and why. Okay, you may notice the image on screen. Um, this is not a cracked phone on a Pizza Hut box. This is my cracked phone on my Pizza Hut box. I just went to pick up some Pizza Hut because I hungered for stuffed crust today. And as soon as I turn around to walk, the Pizza Hut's like across the street from my house. So as soon as I turn around to walk back across the street, um, I have on my Bluetooth headphones and I'm jamming out to my music, making sure to look both ways before crossing the street, um, which I did. And I ran to the middle lane, then looked both ways again, and then ran over to the gate at my apartment to let myself in. Um, when I started walking home, I noticed that my Bluetooth headphones were going in and out and getting scratchy. And I was like, oh, maybe it's buffering, maybe my service is bad. So I went to pull my phone out of my pocket and it was not there. Let me see. Wake up, make up, say your new iPhone. No, so I still have the iPhone. Um, thank goodness, because like I don't know what to tell people about why I'm not texting back. I don't know what to tell my boss tomorrow, y'all. That phone, that's how I clock in on my phone too. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. I tried. Can't do it. Yeah, it is what it is. Um, but no, it was my other phone, the one I use mainly. I don't use my iPhone a lot. But yeah, no, I realized that I left my phone back at the Pizza Hut. So I like ran back across the street to the Pizza Hut. When I got to the Pizza Hut, they were like, "You didn't leave a phone here," and I was like, "I did leave it here." They were like, "No, you weren't. No, you didn't." So I went back to the street, and my Bluetooth headphones connected, and I was like, "Oh." And I saw it. I saw it in the street, and I ran to pick it up. Y'all, this is Satan right now. This is Satan working in my life because when I found the phone, it was face down in the case. Y'all, the case looks amazing. the the case looks fine. I can't even tell the case got ran over. Um, no, the case looked amazing from the back. I picked it up and breathed a sigh of relief. I was like, "Thank goodness it's not broken in half or something. Like it just looks completely fine." And I turned it over, and this is what it was. Yeah, so that's how my 15 minutes ago went for me. I did enjoy the pizza. I got some stuffed crust pizza, so I couldn't be too mad. We gotta take the good with bad. But it was in the middle of the street. Someone ran over it in the middle of the street. And look, this is the thing, y'all. When I was running back across the street to go to Pizza Hut, if I had have caught it, my Bluetooth connected when I was running across the street. So I was like, oh, it is at Pizza Hut because now that I'm closer, it's connecting again. But no, it was on the street. If I had caught it in the street the first time, it would have been fine. Um, because my Bluetooth connected when I ran across the street, so it had yet to be ran over. And then y'all, when I was running to it, it's in the middle of the lane too. So I was like, "Ooh, thank goodness! If it was on the edge of the lane, someone might have ran over it." But they can't drive here, so um, at least the case works. Well, I got to the house and took the case off, and the case fell apart as soon as I took it off. I have nothing. Well, so what is the point of the case? What is the? Let me remove this from the screen. It's make it because it's making me mad now. Um, but yeah, without further ado, guys, we're going to just have a chill day. We're going to look at some Kidology because some of her old videos I think were very based. They were giving what needed to be given. And I found them actually a lot more interesting than her recent work. Not to say that her recent work is bad, but I really enjoy some authentic Z. So we're gonna take a look at that real quick. I was hoping you said it was frozen. Yeah, I mean it is frozen. Like if you look at the screen, the screen no longer everything like it's black. So yeah, it is technically it's still frozen. Him got two phones. Yes, one for the plug and one for the other stuff. I don't know how the song goes. The phone is definitely destroyed, y'all. And this is I'm trying not to make it a sob story, but I travel for work and I'm leaving tomorrow to a city in the middle of nowhere that's like hours away, and there's like no repair shop that I can bring it to in that city. Um, and then as soon as this happened, y'all, it's like what 7 o'clock here, but the store closed at 6:30 for bringing in your phone for repair. Like it just feels like nothing lined up today at all. But the pizza was okay. It was okay. The stuffed crust was disappointing. Yeah, some violins in the chat, please. So I'm gonna play my intro and then we can look at some Kidology. Will y'all join me and say I rebuke it? Will y'all join me and say the devil is a lie? But welcome everybody. Chica, Grace, Wake Up, Makeup, Slay, LB, Ariel, yep, you. Welcome, Ask Jana Lee, Lay. Yeah, I'm not gonna be the best pronouncer. I don't know if y'all hear this thunder outside, but it is thundering. It is lightning. I don't know if the internet's gonna like. What is going on today? On Easter? On the Lord's Day? Hello, Jenny Bean. Hello, Tasha. We rebuke it. We rebuke it. We rebuke it. Mashallah, mashallah, and all that. Mm-hmm. So Kidology made a video, guys, and she made a video on something that I thought was very interesting. She made a video on the case of I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Sarah Everard. Everard. Again, I'm not going to be the best pronouncing names today. But she made not that she made a video around that woman specifically, but rather she made a video that was a response to an Abba and Preach video, and their video was a response to a what looked like a United Kingdom lawmaker who was suggesting that we impose a curfew at 6 p.m. for men. She was doing this, it seems like, in response to a lot of public discourse around the case, because the woman who the video who she was talking about is a young woman who was unalived while walking home. And so she was suggesting, I'm trying not to give away too many details, but she was suggesting that we impose a curfew for men at 6 p.m. to keep them off the streets so that women could traverse safely without being unalived. And let's see how that goes. Hello again. Ariel. Okay. Ariel. The devil is a liar. Yes, we rebuke it. We rebuke it. It's Easter. Wait, is it not Easter? Hello, Purple Lover. And Cantor. Hello. Mm-hmm. So let me pull up Kidology's video. And the video's in the description if you guys want to go and watch it yourselves after this is over. We're gonna go ahead and leave her a like just so it's her video. So I feel like that's the least we can do. Let's see what she has to say.
Damn, it has been.
Y'all let me know if y'all hear the rain too. Can you hear the rain?
A goddamn fucking week. A week. Because there is one individual, and that individual is somebody who I think should be christened as an infamous contribution to the YouTube commentary section of Daily Mail videos. And this individual's name is Master Irakius. Now, Master Irakius is somebody who is very close to my heart insofar as...
This is the wrong video. We started with the wrong video, y'all. Hold up. We started with the wrong video. That's the second one we were going to look at. Here's the first.
So, an old white woman has told men that they should be in their homes, safe and sound, by 6 p.m. every night. They are going insane.
Having a defence available to householders defending themselves, but not to women in abusive relationships. Defending themselves against someone they know can be dangerous and violent towards them is discriminatory. And in the week that the woman, Sarah Everard, was abducted and we suppose killed because remains have been found in a woodland in Kent, I would argue that at the next opportunity for any bill that's appropriate, I might actually put in an amendment to create a curfew for men on the streets after 6 p.m, which I feel would make women a lot safer. And discrimination of all kinds would be lessened.
Nigel Farage's toupee, it just went whoop, flipped. My goodness. He described her as deranged on Twitter. His toupee just, he was gone. What is the world coming to? Men curfewed. Oh Lord, oh Jesus, save us all. Anyway, so this video is actually in response to a video released and uploaded by Abba and Preach on their YouTube channel. I definitely recommend watching it if you haven't. I'm sure a lot of people have. They're great YouTubers. I'm subscribed to them. I love their content.
Welcome, Lan. I think what she's saying is a curfew for men specifically. But that will be revealed, I guess, in the video.
And even if I don't agree with much of it, I find it very informative, very educational, very insightful, and very humbling. But in this instance, I was not on board, and I was also not terribly impressed. I think they could have provided a more sophisticated and more thought-out response. I don't think that was so because they have changed their schedule in which they're uploading, I think, daily at the moment. And this video was also only about 7.5 minutes long. So they didn't dedicate a lot of time to it. And I think this emphasizes my point and also proves the point that Baroness Jones was trying to make. So I'm going to read a statement that Baroness Jones released yesterday on March 12th on the House website. It's unacceptable that women are forced to police their own behavior because men can't police theirs. My suggestion for a 6 p.m. curfew for men incensed people far more than the police telling women not to go out alone. It speaks volumes of our victim-blaming culture. It would be nice to think that everyone who has got worked up about my suggestion that we put a 6 p.m. curfew on men was even more incensed by the police actually going round to people's houses in the days after Sarah Everard's abduction and advising women not to go out alone in the evening. Judging from some comments in my inbox, that is not the reality. There is little understanding amongst a lot of men about the victim-blaming culture, where women are constantly being told where not to walk, what not to wear, and what not to do. One of the scariest things about the murder of Sarah, and I really feel for her family, is that she was doing all of that, walking along a busy road, staying connected with her phone, sensible shoes, bright clothes, heading straight home. None of it stopped her being killed. By raising the idea of a male curfew in the Lords, I wanted to draw attention to the police advice and turn it on its head, thus not being literal. By raising the idea of a male curfew in the Lords, I wanted to draw attention to the police advice and turn it on its head. Unsurprisingly, there are a lot of men out there who can't cope with this upside-down world, where the point is the problem of violent and misogynistic men. This is not to say that all men are monsters, but women understand that some men are capable of rape, sexual assault, and violence. And boy, in the UK, after a night out, with the extent of binge drinking that Britons do, the likelihood of that is increased even more. Guaranteed. First-hand experience of just walking past it. It is petrifying. As of Thursday lunchtime, 6 women and a little girl have been killed since Sarah Everard disappeared. A survey out this week found that among women aged 18 to 24, 97% said they had been sexually harassed. And that was, I think, released by the UN Women. And this is on a global scale. a global scale. So there's only 3% of women who have not experienced sexual harassment in their life. That's fucking disgusting. While 80% of all women had experienced sexual harassment in public spaces. Now, either there's a small minority of men who are busy intimidating women 24/7, or this is way more widespread than men like to own up to. The problem is that women can rarely tell which man is a good guy and which isn't. So women have become wary and self-protective. Women police their own actions because men can't police theirs. That is actually a very good statement. And I actually read in of all.
It has taken a while for her to get through this statement, but I wanted her to finish it. I just wanted to interject to say that I do, while I disagree with the idea of a 6 p.m. curfew, I do completely understand the perspective of trying to, the idea of presenting this as a hypocrisy. I'm sorry, it's like really hard for me to focus because it's raining like really, really bad outside. But the idea of presenting this hypocrisy, right, where there is an extreme amount of outrage. I'm not sure if she plays the Abba and Preach video. If she doesn't, maybe I will. But there's an extreme amount of outrage. Again, the congresswoman in that clip it says men should have a 6 p.m. curfew because women are being assaulted. There's like widespread outrage from the men. She makes this. She says this to point out Cool. Yeah, so we just had like an outage. Hold up. We just had an outage. But it looks like it's getting brighter outside, so that's nice. Yeah, I don't know if I should make a new stream. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Y'all, I'm over here with AT&T on the phone, trying to understand why I pay for a service that's not here. Well, sir, we can't control the weather. These things are normal with all service providers. I don't care. Control the weather. I pay you control the weather money. Is this something that you can research in the future? We just had like a short conversation. That's all. There we go. Okay. So let me do a intermission and play my intro again, just so we can break this. Okay, I'll put a timestamp for like this the 29-minute mark. I'll make a note to put a timestamp. Okay. I'm so proud of you guys for sticking it out with me. I really appreciate that. Hold on, let me see. The 29. Okay, I'll put timestamps just so you guys don't have to sit through that on the rewatch. But let's get right back to business. Okay, so again, reframing moment. Kidology, speaking about the Congresswoman, excuse me, I don't know what the UK equivalent is, speaking about a curfew needed for men because of a particularly brutal case that just happened. In Kidology, going over this really long tweet or Instagram post that the same woman put out who we heard speaking earlier in the video regarding the type of not only public discourse around what was happening after she was, I believe she was assaulted and unalived at night. And the response, like it usually is, was, well, what were you wearing? Why were you out that late? You should have wore bright clothing. You should have walked under the street lamps. You should have called someone so that they knew where you were. You should have called the police. You should have, right? The same type of discourse that tends to happen around scenario like these happened. However, this one was particularly awful to hear online because she was doing all these things. To my knowledge, she was wearing bright clothing. She did call someone on the phone to let them know the whereabouts. She was walking under the street lamps and making sure to take well-known routes. And of course, you can. It was a policeman who assaulted her, so that would be. It would be weird to be saying she should have called the police in a scenario like this. The police don't always help, and in this case specifically, they hindered. But let's see what Keto has to say. They do need to control the weather. Hello, conservative free spirit. Yeah.
Of all publications, I read Glamour magazine. Never thought I'd be reading Glamour. It's not really my thing, but you know what? And it was actually a really good quote that actually really resonates with that. In the concluding paragraph of this article, written 2 days ago by Ali Pantoni, I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly, in Glamour magazine. It's actually a very interesting piece. I might subscribe to Glamour after this. I'm well impressed. You see, this is a learning point. I think. Never judge a book by its cover. Similarly, to never judge a little snippet that you get from an entire speech and an entire point, and claim that someone is being literal about a point that they are making. Ali writes in her conclusion.
That was definitely an Abba and Preach drag. Y'all, we talked about Abba and Preach on my last public video because their discourse seemed very basic. It didn't seem very I'm sorry. I just heard the type of thunder rumble where you know it's about to be a loud crack. You just don't know when it's gonna come, and that's upsetting me because I don't know when it's going to come, and I don't want to jump on stream. Let me go off camera. But yeah, Abba and Preach needed. I mean, they needed in the specific video she's talking about. There needed to be more. There needed to be a better. I don't know. Again, like I said on the last stream, I kind of have a high standard when it comes to Abba and Preach's content. So, okay, the strike's not going to happen. So I don't understand why they would look at a case like this and not seek further context, not seek further research, or like all you had to do was look for the next tweet. She literally, Kidology is doing that here. She's reading out the tweet. This feels like the video felt like a gross simplification of what was going on, a misunderstanding, a mischaracterization, and pretty much an excuse to kind of shit on women. Like, look at this crazy congresswoman. She's saying that men should have a curfew at 6. What a dumb woman. She's right. There could have been like such a meaningful conversation in such a meaningful discourse or commentary, since Abba and Preach don't really do like discourse, they do commentary on this situation. Like, we could have talked about the type of hypocrisy that even Abba and Preach showed themselves when they were talking about how delusional she is for having a curfew. However, that's the main type of discourse you get from men to women who experience something like this. I think that could have been a meaningful conversation. I think Kidology is going to be having that here, which we'll watch today. It would have been nice to see Abba and Preach have that as well, instead of the same old crazy old woman misandrist take. But it is what it is. Some people don't meet the standard.
And adding on to this. So, men, this is on you. Instead of using victim-blaming language as a way to justify violence against women, ask why we exist in a world in which every woman and girl lives in fear. Ask why almost all women know a victim of rape, but no men know a rapist. I'd never actually thought of that myself, and thinking about that now, very interesting. My suggestion for a male curfew, not a Green Party policy, by the way, as a better alternative than women being told not to go out alone, was ironic. But I'm sure there are much more positive ideas out there, and I would love to hear them. Only I want to hear men discussing them rather than women only. This is, after all, a problem of male culture. Educating our young to respect women is a good start at school and at home, but it isn't enough. We need to deal with domestic abuse and what children experience in their home environments, which is what the Lords has been discussing productively for the last few weeks. We need to deal with the entire failure of the police and criminal justice system in dealing with rape. A 1% success rate for any other crime would have been dealt with years ago. That is true. Above all, we need to make misogyny a hate crime and start to change the culture that seeks to keep women in their place with abuse and intimidation. Finally, can I say a big thank you for all the positive feedback I've had from both women and from men. The debate is changing, and it's great to see people coming together to organize a Reclaim the Street protest at Clapham Common, which sort of is the backdrop of this entire conversation. In a week when the names of all the women killed by men was again read out in Parliament by Jess Phillips. She's a Labour member of Parliament. She actually has, on 2 occasions now, read out a list of all the women in the UK who have been killed by men primarily who are in their intimate lives. And it is heartbreaking and it is shocking. In a week when the names of all the women killed by men.
I did want to pause and say, I think it's really important to point out the fact that she says they read out a list of all the women who have been unalived in the UK, and primarily it was by their intimate partner. So even in the way that people online are having this kind of discourse when something like this happens, where they're like, just walk next to the... My Wi-Fi was doing that little Wi-Fi symbol. I got scared. Just walk next to the street lamp. Just wear bright clothes. Just call some... Like, already we're talking about what seems like a minority of what's happening to women. Like she said, this seems to be something that's generally done by an intimate partner. So when we're talking about, I guess, recommendations around how women should move to avoid being assaulted, these are like friends, sometimes family members, partners. These aren't like random boogeymans on the street generally. So even if that's something that you tell women to do, it doesn't really address the issue. But yeah.
And was again read out in Parliament these are sad and worrying times, but I hope this will be a turning point and the list of the dead will get shorter each year. Right, that was her statement, and I think it was a very good statement. It is very unfortunate that she had to come out with a statement after this, and I think she does make a good point. I think if a curfew was literally enforced, it would definitely not be something that worked. It really wouldn't, but it wouldn't work because it wouldn't address the issue of behavior, and I think that's the point that Baroness Jones was actually making. Sarah Everard did everything right. She was doing everything right. She was self-policing herself in order to ensure that she got home safely at 9:30 at night, which isn't even that late. Yet she was still murdered. She did everything right and she was still murdered. And still to this day, the number of comments and tweets and innuendos in publications that I have recently read in which people are saying, well, what did she expect? Why was she walking alone at 9:30? Why was a woman alone at 9:30 walking? She was doing everything right. She was on a busy street, bright clothes. She was in contact with people. She was walking in the lights. I mean, honestly. And the fact that women have to self-police to such an extent, we curfew ourselves. That's the reality. There is an informal curfew, and in a lot of contexts, even a formal one, especially with young girls, I would say that there is very much a formal curfew relative to that of their male siblings or the male influences that they have in their lives. I think it becomes more informal as you grow up, but it's still there because you've been taught that from a young age. And you do that, but nothing changes. You still experience sexual harassment. You still feel threatened. You're still petrified to go out at night or in the early hours of the morning. So when we suggest that men, in fact, have to be curfewed at 6 p.m. at night, I mean, yes, that can happen, but nothing will change.
Yeah, agree. I haven't had a disagreement so far throughout the video, which is really interesting. I was going to disagree on the curfew part. I thought if we were curfewing men, then maybe there would be a decrease in crime outside, the type of crime that happened to her. But as Lavender Lane puts, I think, well, a curfew would just get men home sooner to terrorize women if they're partnered. So yeah, probably would exaggerate the issue. Hello, Foxy. Foxy says she never gets notifications. That's because you didn't hit the bell icon. And speaking of hitting stuff, make sure to hit the like and subscribe if you're not already. Thank you.
She's presenting a double standard. And I think it's very telling that the response, primarily from men, I'm specifically talking about Abba and Preach, it's very telling. And it's very interesting that it has sort of become another intellectual weapon of sorts to use against pushes toward making women feel safe.
I might
Now, real quick, before we continue the rest of Kidology's video, I did want to look at Abba and Preach's video. Again, I want to point out what Kidology just said. The whole point of Baroness Jones, that's what it is, not Congresswoman, Baroness Jones' statement regarding men having a curfew is to point out the type of hypocrisy in the public discourse. The fact that she mentions a curfew and she has her feet held to the fire for suggesting that men who were assaulting women stay at home, while I think they were even they weren't introducing, but they were putting legislation on the table, like how she suggested, to curfew women in the same way. The fact that she's pointing out this double standard and hypocrisy and the response is what it is really, really telling. It feels almost as if Abba and Preach are doing exactly what Baroness Jones implies is the double standard, but we can let them speak for themselves. I believe in letting folks talk with their own words. So let's see what Abba and Preach had to say before we go back to Kidology's video.
To householders defending themselves, but not to women in abusive relationships. Defending themselves against someone they know can be dangerous and violent towards them is discriminatory. And in the week that the woman, Sarah Everard, was abducted and we suppose killed because remains have been found in a woodland in Kent, I would argue that at the next opportunity for any bill that's appropriate, I might actually put in an amendment to create a curfew for men on the streets after 6 p.m., which I feel would make women a lot safer. And discrimination of all kinds would be lessened.
Discrimination of all kind would be lessened by discriminating against men.
You said Green Party and I went,
yeah.
Man, we.
You know. I don't. Okay. All right. Let me switch it up.
All right then.
Let me switch it up.
You're not supposed to-
You imagine if we went to? You imagine if we went to Chicago and we said we're putting in a curfew for Black folks? No.
Well, yeah. Wasn't that what we were supposed to do?
Yeah, because there's a predominantly high levels of crime in some parts of a city. No Black folks. Woo. Okay. Do I need to say anything?
Okay, let me let him speak.
I don't think that's one of the video that we don't need. You know what? We're gonna switch it up. Y'all do the commentary, because this is beyond me. This is beyond me. You know what? Y'all do the commentary. Y'all comment it up.
Okay, they want us to do the commentary. Wait, how did I not remember? I haven't watched this in like a year or how long has it been? 2 years. Oh wow, I haven't watched this since it came out 2 years ago. I remember watching this and agreeing with it actually 2 years ago, and then I watched Kidology's video and realized that I too took this out of context, didn't do any research on it, and was happy to engage in like kind of shameful rhetoric towards the politician without even understanding the point that she was coming from. But at the time, I was someone like watching them on YouTube. And at the time, it was not my job as like someone who watches YouTube to verify that information, although I do encourage that in my audience, at least. I hope y'all go to verify stuff that I say instead of just believing everything that I say up front. But when I'm watching a YouTuber who is well regarded like Abba Preach, I'm going to assume that they're doing their due diligence, and I'm going to assume that they're doing the research, and what they're saying is credited. But since they're going to let us do the what I'm saying is they didn't, as far as they didn't go and do extra research at all. They pretty much took this one statement, that's it, this one statement out of context and blew it up, and got angry. Let's see. Since we're commenting, I wanted to look at their comments since they said we're gonna let the people comment. Also, welcome Lady M. Ironically, the missing woman was murdered by a police officer, the very people who would be enforcing the curfew. That actually is ironic insofar as how the public discourse is regarding stuff like that. The public discourse is she should have, again, and all of this, she should have done this, she should have done that. Some of the stuff is like she should have called the police, but yeah, that's ironic because she was murdered by a police officer. Society needs to learn that cruelty does not have a gender, race, or sexual orientation. I think that would help a lot on pursuing equality. Now, I think when it comes to I'm colorblind, I don't see color, I don't see gender, I don't see race. I think even though your intention may be genuine, this is like some really dangerous rhetoric in my mind. If you don't see gender, you might not see violence that is disproportionate towards one gender as opposed to the other. If you don't see color, you might not see discrimination that's disproportionate towards one color as opposed to the other. So I was going to say I have no idea why people say stuff like that. I guess I do understand why people want to be colorblind and why people want to be we're all the same. But no, I don't think I'm going to subscribe to that.
Y'all respond to.
So just to give you guys a bit of context, this was fueled because of the fact that somebody ended up disappearing and they believed to have been, all right. Now, in response to this, a lot of they're planning
Red Rum.
Sure, they're planning a vigil for the woman who's gone, and a lot of people are recounting their experience. And this was the response from, I believe her name is Jenny Jones from the Green Party. You know what? Hold up.
Now I want to pause. They did additional research. They went to look and see some extra. Okay, they saw that there's a vigil being held for her. They saw that women are coming out and sharing their similar experiences. So again, this is why I try to hold Abba and Preach at least to a higher standard, because they show within their videos that they will go and provide additional context to a scenario. But if you can go and do that, why would you not simply go up to look at what the Congresswoman said outside of this? What was it, like a 15-20 second clip? It feels like now in my mind, this is like a narrative. I can't say, oh, you were just ignorant and they didn't look it up, like I was saying earlier, because here they are doing research around the case. Now it feels purposeful. Maybe it wasn't, but I don't know.
Let me play devil's advocate. Let me play devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
Maybe this is performative. And because of the fact that we have a curfew in place to protect women and men from the coronavirus by not letting people to move around and, do all this, she's basically saying, well, we're willing to do this much to protect everyone from this pandemic or whatever. Maybe we should put in a curfew for men because they're the ones endangering women. And that's like the leap that she was trying to make. If I'm trying to be generous.
That is not generous at all. I have no idea where that comparison comes from. What I would have said, first of all, I wouldn't be playing devil's advocate. What I would say is, I'm trying to see from your perspective. If Abba, or I don't know if Preach does research, but Abba, well, I don't know which one is Abba. The one in the orange jacket. It seems like he goes to do research externally. So if you're able to go outside and do that research, I feel like you could have given the generous take of, hey, while I'm doing research on this topic, there seems to be a lot of discourse around this young woman, why she shouldn't have been out at this late, why she should have been in earlier. They could have seen that the police are going to people's doors and telling women that they should stay indoors to avoid being assaulted, as opposed to, policing the assaulters. But that would have been, in my mind, that would have been something you encountered when you're doing research, even if your research is limited, even if it's only a 7-minute video and you're not planning to do like an extensive academic lens of what's going on. Like, if you're able to do the amount of research that you do for a video, I feel like this would have been something you saw, and you could have given the generous take of, this is clearly her being, excuse me, what's the word? Not sarcastic. Is it facetious? This is her being facetious in her presentation to point out the hypocrisy regarding how we treat women who are victims of crimes like this, insofar as we try to police their behavior. But as we saw with Kidology, simply, it looks like what Kidology found was on the first page of Google. Simply Googling would have, maybe I'm incorrect. Let me see. And that was, how did I forget it? Baroness? Is it a baroness? So let's see. So I just Googled. Yeah, I literally, the first thing I Googled Everard, Baroness Jones. The first thing that came up was a news article, a couple of news articles. They all look identical, but these are the first things that come up on Google. And within the let me present. Within the article, it shows how she talks about the 6 p.m. curfew and the type of backlash she saw. And then it goes down further to talk about exactly what Kidology was reading from. Like this was the research I just did in 5 seconds. I don't understand what they were saying. COVID, maybe what he said was, if I'm being generous to her argument, maybe she was trying to say we have a curfew for COVID, and so she was trying to extend that into a curfew for me. I have no idea. I don't even know what that was. I feel like it's pretty clear to me just from, 30 seconds of research what she was doing, insofar as pointing out the hypocrisy. So that makes me feel, I don't know, maybe Abba and Preacher are disingenuous. But then again, this was also 2 years ago. Maybe they didn't do research like that.
Well,
I'd like to believe she's not potato enough.
who's the danger?
Am I being too generous?
Yeah, hold on. In the coronavirus, who's the danger?
Anybody.
Hold on.
Anybody.
Anybody. So they did a curfew on the people that was in danger. By that logic, it would be the women that would have to have a curfew.
I mean, look, I'm assuming this.
I don't understand. I have no idea. Like, I promise y'all, I'm not saying this to like drag them. That went like right over my head. Like the COVID connection to what she was saying. I have no idea. Should I watch it again? I'll be honest. The crime-heavy communities may need a curfew, and definitely the men. I mean, I don't actually mean that it should happen for real, but I understand why someone would want to curfew them. Um, Wait, so you support what they were? Let me drop the link. Do you wait? Because it feels like you're saying you support what they said in regards to let's have a curfew on Black people because they have, but that can't be what you're saying. But I'll let it play. You don't have to come up if you don't want to. I might just be being not fair with what you're saying. I might have misread it.
This is performative. It was very weird comments. If she is being serious, I don't know what to tell you. We also have to get out of this idea that like most men are out there hurting or harming people. And if you were to alienate and take the rights of a huge chunk of people based off of the actions of a minority, and if you start to overrepresent this problem as if like all men are engaged in this behavior, then you're going to leave yourself in a place where you're going to be making bad legislations on bad ideas. So,
again, I want to point out, Kidology was reading from something that was global, worldwide, regarding 97% of women experiencing sexual harassment. 80% of them experiencing sexual harassment in public, and all know a man who is abusive, perhaps sexually in nature, but none of the men know anybody. And there's it's a small minority of men. There's this idea that there are like a total of 7 men in the world, and these 7 men are, I guess, violating 97% of women in the world. I don't know how they're getting to 8. I think we're close to 9 billion now. Excuse me, women. So 4 to 4.5 billion. I don't know how they're getting to all of these women. I don't know if they have day jobs, but apparently these super predators are out here. These same 7 men, there's one in each continent. And they are just wrecking havoc on each. I have no idea. It feels disingenuous to say, oh, this is just a small percent of men, when I don't know, so many women seem to experience it. For me, I can't fathom it logistically. I can't see, just a small number of men. Like, do they go out and hit like 257 women a day and then go back home, sleep? They don't eat, they don't rest, they don't go to work. They go back out the next day and hit another couple hundred. Like, even if they were hitting hundreds a day, I don't feel like you would be able to get 97% of a population with just a small amount of men. So I think, I don't know, that argument seems kind of no to me. I can't see it being fathomable.
We just have to be careful about the perception that we put out there in regards to this issue. But that's my thoughts.
The thing is this, all right?
Yeah, go ahead. Tell them.
It's not solving the issue. It's camouflaging it with something else. And you're going to have serial killers, and you're going to have people that are going to be there. They're still going to do those deeds, but camouflaged. Or they're going to find a way to. And that's,
how long? Let's say this shit was put in place. How much longer do you think women are going to keep going to clubs before they give up on it altogether?
No, it's dead, because the whole club scene revolves around men buying things. Yes, there's some women buying things. You got your money, and that's
okay. I think I'm gonna go back to Kidology's video. It's at the point where the discussion about a woman who is like sexually assaulted and unalived by a police officer, even though she was doing everything that people were saying she should have did after her death, now turning into a conversation about, if they put a curfew on men, though, women won't go to the club because they won't get to spend men's money. I don't know, yeah, I think we've gotten what we're gonna get from there. So let's go back to some Kidology. Let's see what Kidology had to say. Wouldn't a curfew for men also help men, since they mostly unalive each other? So this is something that I used to think in regards to men being unalive. I'm pretty sure it's also men are unalive, but even though it's by other men, it's by men who are close. So even men, when they go out, it's not like generally random men assaulting them. It seems to be their close Let me Google to make sure. One thing about me is I'm a Google. It's right. It's a tool that we all. I have no idea why don't people use Google? You can pull up the FBI crime statistics. You can pull up crime by country, crime by state. Um, oh no, there are so many separations. So we're going to be looking at. There's DV. Oh, I can't say these words on screen, and I don't know how. Oh, I don't know how to say these words on screen without getting demonetized. I don't think I can put this on screen either. Whoa. So I see the homicide statistics regarding when a man is unalived or when a man is a victim of violent crime. I'm looking at violent crime or just violence against men. So this includes DV, this includes sexual stuff, this includes even going so far as something like what's it called? Genital mutilation and such. Hearing how Preach tried to flip this on women, I'm glad he's a white woman's burden. I don't think his wife is white. I think they, the picture of him with a white woman was one of his coworkers that he works with. But I'm looking for. I can't find this. Maybe we can do a different live stream dedicated to this because I don't want to spend too much time on it. But I'm almost certain the last time I looked at violence against men, even though it's perpetuated by men, it's still going to be like men who are friends, family members, and stuff like that. The same as how women aren't generally some boogeyman jumps out the bushes. Usually it's an intimate partner or a friend or family member or something like that. But we can look at that, I guess, in a different live stream. I'm not going to harp on it. Where's my Kidology video? Because that's what I'm trying to get back to. Yeah, that was, I don't know. I felt like it was becoming weird. I don't mean to be, hopefully I'm giving them a generous take. I don't think I am. I think I'm giving them a neutral take. I don't think I'm doing favors for them, nor am I disfavoring them. But no, it's someone washing clothes. Wait, y'all hear that? All the way over there. So y'all didn't hear that loud thunder and lightning outside, but y'all hear my clothes washing all the way over in the next building nearly. I'll close the door in a second so y'all don't have to hear. Y'all listening too hard. I don't like that. Why did they? So they took the Kidology video away.
Old white.
Okay. It just they removed the timestamp. So we're gonna have to find
a young to respect woman, right? Literally express of in day, but why would she fact that woman have to self-police to such lives? When we, and I think it's very telling that the response, primarily from men, I'm specifically talking about Abba and Preach, it's very telling, and it's very interesting that it has sort of become another intellectual weapon of sorts to use against pushes toward making women feel safe.
I might actually put in an amendment to create a curfew for men on the streets after 6 p.m, which I feel would make women a lot safer.
I think this is actually not a fault of people. I think this is a fault of the media. The media has failed to provide, the British media specifically, has failed to provide context. Context is needed. If you take a comment completely out of the context, which is what has been done here, then yes, it sounds like a very radical, deluded notion. So I completely understand people's immediate reaction being, oh my God, this woman is fucking insane. However, once we've gotten over that, which everybody I feel should have, because believe me, when I first read it, I thought this woman is insane. I then watched the entire speech. I then read about what her committee is doing regarding domestic abuse and the policies and the conversations that they're having in their subcommittees, etc. And I've been doing over the past few weeks. And it makes perfect sense now. I get what she's saying. She was making a point about double standards. And that's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. I tell you, 9 out of 10 conversations or political debates of sorts, which I have with men, 9 out of 10 of them, I swear, I will say my piece. I will say my piece uninterrupted with fervor and determination. I will say it proud. I will say it loud. And at the end of it, the man will say, so what you're saying is, and will pick something that he latched onto, something he latched onto. He'll take it completely out of the entire breadth of the speech of passion which I gave. He'll take that out and then he'll twist it into a little, sort of this little well-wrapped little box of sorts that he's made for himself in order to understand what I actually meant. Because I can't, obviously, I can't have meant what I said. I can't have meant anything that I said because I do not know what is coming out of my own brain and mouth. He has to therefore reinterpret it and completely flip it on its head. And then it makes sense. And this is the perfect example of that.
Kidology got a personal vendetta. I did not know Kidology used to be, I did not know she used to come for the men's like this. Let me just say this is very stunning and brave for a white woman to do. And I really appreciate her for doing it. Very stunning and brave. But I do like that she pointed that out. The fact that just like in the video we're seeing of Baroness Jones, there is a entire conversation and discourse happening around this. Now you see a news article and it says crazy Baroness says that men should go to bed at 6 p.m. And you are outraged, sure, rightfully so. And then you simply Google, or just instead of reading just the headline, read the rest of the news article. Kidology said she went and did so much research and added so much context to the situation and found the whole thing brilliant. You don't even have to do that, y'all. I just simply Googled the Baroness's name and the woman's name who she was talking about, and literally the first page, the news article, yes, the title is inflammatory. Baroness says men should have 6 p.m. curfew, and then you simply read the article, and that adds context that is needed for you to no longer be outraged. But like Kidology says regarding her specific situation, it's as if I have said a whole paragraph to you. I've articulated myself well and described exactly what I mean. And instead of listening to that, you fixated on this one part, picked it out, and you are fighting it. No.
This is picking up a little part of what was said and being like, you know what? This woman is mad, mental, absolutely deluded, delusional. Oh my goodness. I read a comment, somebody said that she's suffering from dementia, obviously. How pathetic are you? How gross are you? When we live in a world in which 97% of women have experienced sexual assault of some kind. Fucking disgusting, I tell you. Really, absolutely disgusting. Petrifying. I'll use myself as a personal example. I have a job where I have to be at...
Wait, is Kidology black? Or are y'all trolling in the comments? Because I'm asking honestly, y'all, because I don't see color. So it's really hard for me to distinguish. I just believe we shouldn't see color generally. But, you know, I'll reflect. I'll try to look at it a little harder.
Work by 4 a.m. every morning. Every morning, 4 a.m. It is pitch dark. I live in a city. And it is terrifying. It really is. Because I have to either walk or cycle into work. And if it's raining sometimes, if I'm brave enough, I'll get a taxi. Usually I will not, because too many stories. I don't blame men for not understanding that. I do, however, blame the culture and atmosphere surrounding a woman being out alone, in which the response is, as was the response of Metropolitan Police in following Sarah Everard's disappearance. They went to the homes of women in the area in Clapham and were telling them to stay at home for their own safety, and if they are going out, that they must go out with they mustn't go out alone, right? So that's great.
I want to reiterate what she just said there. This isn't like your parents or your friends coming to you concerned and saying there's a lot of bad stuff going on out there, and we're worried about you. This is like the police. This is the law. This is the law coming to your home saying, "Hey, we do not have this under control, so we are now giving you a lawful recommendation to stay indoors." And again, like I said, you would think people would be outraged at that, but no, people start providing justification. Well, you don't want to get assaulted out there. They're just trying to help any way they can. Now that we flip it again with Baroness saying maybe the men should have a curfew instead of the women, it is outrage, at least by the men. So, yeah.
But again, that's sort of the example of that double standard of that, oh, women need to police themselves because men can be violent, and there are some violent men. Yet even if you do self-police, there's no guarantee that you're not going to be assaulted, that you're not going to be harassed, that you're not going to be raped, that you're not going to be killed. It's just that solution doesn't work. And the other solution of men having a curfew doesn't work. And that was exactly what the Baroness was trying to get at in her own way. Maybe it wasn't clear, because obviously people just took it out of context. Judge my opinions, not my character. I would really like to actually hear what everybody else thinks, whether you agree with me or not. Just so happy that you're here, so happy that you're listening to what I have to say, and I look forward to reading and hearing what you have to say in response. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.
So that is Kidology's thoughts on the matter. And why does this video only have 9,500 views? This should be like one of her most popular videos. I think she was smaller at the time she made this, so I don't know how many subscribers she had, but this was in 2021. I really liked the comments in her section as opposed to Abba and Preach. I would like to see how other people view this also. I think we're all fighting with each other and not realizing that there are good and bad people out there. As a child, I was R''d by both man and woman in an orphanage. In corporate, I had a similar instance where a woman touched me inappropriately. When I reported this, I was told that I'm a man and that I can handle it. There's a huge divide everywhere, and we need to focus on the justice system that's letting us down. This is not a men or women thing. This is a good versus bad people. I actually completely disagree, because this definitely, at the point at which we're citing research in the video that says 97% of women have been assaulted globally at some point in their life. I don't think this is, and I think this was sexual assault, excuse me, not physical violence. But I think for me, this is going to be distinctly a woman issue. It is an issue that can affect men. I absolutely agree, but I'm generally going to think of it as a woman's issue. I don't know if people I don't know if that's like controversial to say. I generally feel that way about certain types of issues. Like there are issues that I believe affect Black people, for example, disproportionately, specifically regarding police brutality or discrimination in the criminal justice system. Do I believe that this type of thing can happen to white people? Yes, absolutely. But I'm not generally going to call it a white people problem. I'm going to call it a Black people problem because it affects Black people disproportionately. I would do the same with scenarios like this, just because this is an issue that affects women disproportionately. So I'm going to call it a women's problem generally, even though men can experience it. And I do think it's bad that he says touched inappropriately by a woman. And when he reported it, people said that he's a man and he can handle it. I do find that inappropriate, but I still wouldn't call it a male problem generally. I'm going to drop the link and briefly open the panel before moving on to the next video, just in case anybody wanted to. I didn't know if any of you disagreed with anything Kidology or I said, because Kidology and me I feel like we on one accord today, and that's great because we're only ever online arguing usually, so that's cool. That quote about everyone knowing a victim, but not an abuser, made me think of how where I'm from, there are a lot of male fraternities in the town, and people would just teach you as a teenage girl you're not supposed to go near them at night or day at any cost. But if you talked about how you're not willing to date a man who's participating in fraternity culture, you'd be called prejudiced and be called into question. That is kind of what I got into in from this video. The idea of you policing yourself, again, you policing yourself because of a perpetrator's action, you the victim having to police yourself. When you call out the fact that the perpetrator is perpetrating, and in this case she says, I don't date dudes who participate in frat culture because it's probably kind of grapey, if we're being honest. All of a sudden people are upset at that. I don't see anyone coming up. Oh, the link's not only for people who disagree. If y'all wanted to add something on too, that's fine. But I don't see anybody coming up, so I'm gonna move on to the next video. But yeah, I really, chef's kiss, like that video. Kidology, well done. It was worth the 5-minute internet outage to get through it. And I wanted to look at one more of her videos. Let me see if I can pull it up. No, y'all don't understand how shocked I was. Yes, perpetrators be perpetrating. Y'all don't know how shocked I was. Kidology and Prince Petty agree on something? What? We have only ever argued, especially when it comes to men. Let's see what else Kidology has to say today. She looks irate.
It has been a goddamn fucking week. A week. Because there is one individual, and that individual is somebody who I think should be christened as an infamous contribution to the YouTube commentary section of Daily Mail videos. And this individual's name is Master Irakius. Now, Master Irakius is somebody who is very close to my heart, and so far as I have discovered that we have absolutely nothing in common, yet he does bring out the best in my academic and intellectual capabilities. God, I miss university. We're just going to look at our little exchange that I had with the Master regarding a Green member of the House of Lords making an ironic suggestion that men should be given a 6 p.m. curfew in the United Kingdom and that she'd actually vote on it. And
for context, I believe this was a follow-up video Kidology made after receiving some backlash for the video we just watched. Yeah.
Really try to enact it as law. It was enjoyable for me until it wasn't, and once it.
If you were wondering, Jamil, about how they would practically enforce the curfew, even though it was supposed to be more like an ironic statement than something that she was seriously considering bringing to the floor, she did write language in the law that suggested that they would have electric booty hole collars.
It wasn't, I said, bye Felicia, and that was that. But yes, I thought it would be very interesting to look at that and to read it and to provide some commentary. So this was underneath a main comment that was made by an individual. All the comments on this video were typical of what you'd expect to find on a Daily Mail social media platform, which was basically, this woman's disgusting, she needs to be, put down, she needs to step down, she needs to have a mental evaluation, she's insane, oh my gosh, what's this all coming to, all that sort of absolute overreaction and hysteria. So anyway, in this comment section, I was sort of looking for a kindred spirit, somebody who may have watched the entire sitting as I did, somebody who may have, who may be a bit more, I don't know, open to the Daily Mail potentially not giving an accurate representation of events that actually happened in the real world. Who knew? I found one, so I joined in, as I felt it was my civil duty to do so. This individual is called Melancholic. They wrote, in response to this comment, "This is disgusting. This woman should be forced to resign for sexist remarks. If a man had said the same thing about women, he'd be fired immediately." Melancholic wrote the following: "You literally just proved her point. Watch the whole thing." Brilliant. Brilliant. When people say less is more, there are a plethora of responses basically calling her illiterate as well. Her point was to be sexist, you absolute toaster. Ouch. Don't worry, all of us women are shocked at this sexist, stupid suggestion, says this pick-me girl. What the hell is this woman thinking? Oh my goodness, a pick-me girl with terrible grammar. Who would have guessed? How dare she brand all men like criminals? We're with you, guys. You know what? Fair enough. I'm being cruel by calling her a pick-me girl and saying that her grammar is terrible. Both of them, in my personal opinion.
I just want to point out that Kidology argues with people in the comments just like I do. I feel affirmed. Yes, we are going to argue because y'all are not about to be stupid in my comments. Excuse me.
And all true, but nonetheless, you do you, boo-boo. Enjoy your life. So I responded to Melancholia. Exactly. This is an example of taking a small snippet out of a larger speech and proposal. Watch the entire sitting and you'll understand what she was saying. It was not literate, it was used in a wider metaphorical sense. And I thought that was the end of it. I thought that, you know, there would just be sort of an exchange of likes between me and Melancholic and potentially, thank you, girl, you know, live your best life. And I'd be like, ditto, girl, live your best life. Like, that was obviously what I think we both.
I'm new to Kidology, but her temperament here is very different from her current videos. Yeah, it was the part where she just said, "Gratata." Excuse me? Who am I watching right now? This is not Kid. Hold up. Hold up. I have to pull this up, y'all. This is very important. This is very important. It's very important that we watch this because she just hold up.
I'm in the ghetto. Ra-ta-ta-ta. Ra-ta-ta-ta.
Absolutely. Kidology was doing this before it was what it was. So yes, we're gonna stand Kidology for the gratata.
Thought would happen based on her response. I assume it's a her. I don't want to assume things, but nonetheless, I'll assume it's a her. I know, and finally, someone's saying, and you see, this is what I like. I like how there is some respect. There's mutual respect there, which I appreciate, which makes me completely overlook the grammatical error. Completely overlook. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, if somebody's nice to you, grammar doesn't matter in public. I think it's just a few mental cases and definitely not all women crazy times. Thank you so much for calling me a mental case. Very much appreciated. My therapist tells me this every single day. Then suddenly, out of the blue, somebody writes directly to me. I get quite excited when this happens on YouTube because I only discovered it recently as I started to sort of get into actually writing comments and realizing that people can respond to you directly and that you can have very lengthy, unrestricted, unword counted conversations with people. And I love it because I go on, I talk for ages. You know, when a man tells me to keep silent and to be quiet, I respect him for saying that. I got a reply from yours truly, Master Eurekius, and he writes to me personally 5 days ago. Police advise women not to be out alone after dark, but they don't advise men, even though men are 3 times more likely to be assaulted. Why do you think they do that? Question mark. And so obviously everybody agrees with him, you know, bros sticking it to, you know, a crazy ass feminist. So anyway, I reply, you have yet again literally proved at Melancholic's original point. You've picked out a little fragment of the entire information and gone with it. This 2018 data that you have so thoroughly referred to shows that yes, men are 3 times more likely to be victims of assault. However, it is important to contextualize this. The vast majority of these male victims are hospitalized because of physical or knife violence perpetrated by male strangers. Over 60% of men hospitalized because of assault were involved in a brawl, a physical fight between strangers, and sustained their injuries in a public place. Family members and friends were the least likely to assault men when it came to these altercations that resulted in their hospitalization. Also, this was almost exclusively found.
So it looks like the data she's citing, it looks like 60% of these are in public places and 40 of them I'm assuming would be private. So contradictory to what I said earlier, it would, I guess, be public for men as opposed to intimate partners. And well, of course it wouldn't be intimate partners because that's generally going to be women, but close relationships and friendships and familiar relationships. But I would also need to do extra research myself.
to be the case with men aged 15 to 24, victims of violence and perpetrators alike, and is notably when men's testosterone levels are at their peak. This is terrible for victims and should definitely be taken far more seriously than it is. However, the picture for women is sadly far more bleak.
Okay, it's too much words in this. I'm going to summarize, and my summary is the reason they don't start telling excuse me 1 second, the reason that they don't, let's go back to the original comment real quick. Police advise women not to be out alone after the dark, but they don't advise men, even though men are 3 times more likely to be assaulted. Why do you think they do that? Wait, maybe I actually misunderstood what his comment was asking. I thought he was asking how come. Nope, I'm lost. I'm actually lost. What does his comment mean? Not me was listening to her explain a response to a comment that I don't understand. Maybe someone can come up and explain, because I thought I was about to give y'all a bomb summary, but here we are. Here we are. The link is there. Someone come up to explain, please, because now I'm confused. At Master Irakias. Yeah, because I don't understand the comment in the way that she was, her response to it. I'm gonna listen to what she said one more time because I might have missed something.
The dark, but they don't advise men, even though men are 3 times more likely to be assaulted. Why do you think they do that? Question mark. And so obviously everybody agrees with him, bros sticking it to, the crazy ass feminist. So anyway, I reply, you have yet again literally proved at Melancholic's original point. You've picked out a little fragment of the entire information and gone with it. This 2018 data that you have so thoroughly referred to shows that yes, men are 3 times more likely to be victims of assault. However, it is important to contextualize this. The vast majority of these male victims are hospitalized because of physical or knife violence perpetrated by male strangers. Over 60% of men hospitalized because of assault were involved in a brawl, a physical fight between strangers, and sustained their injuries in a public place. Family members and friends were the least likely to assault men when it came to these altercations that resulted in their hospitalization. Also,
Yeah, so again, I'm not understanding. In my mind, he said, how come they tell women to have a curfew in regards to this stuff, even though men are the ones who are more likely to experience it? But the data she's presenting, I feels like I was under the impression that men also suffered violence more from family and friends. But according to what she's citing, they do experience violence outside. So in my mind, what he's saying would make sense. Wouldn't you? It wouldn't make sense to require a curfew for women because women aren't outside being assaulted. They're generally being assaulted by people in their close relationships. It would make sense for you to request that men have a curfew because apparently, according to this data, I actually don't know what she's citing. Maybe I should look in there in her description. Refuge.org. And it looks like a article from The Guardian. So this would, again, this, in my mind, this, I wouldn't have an answer to his question in that case. He would be right. Why don't we tell men to have a curfew? Because men are out here assaulting strangers and men are out here being assaulted by strangers. It actually would make more sense to have men have a curfew than women. But let's see where she goes with this, because I might still be misunderstanding. It sounds like outside is the problem. Maybe we should all live underground. Yeah, we need to ban outside. We need to do the C-19 again.
So this was almost exclusively found to be the case with men aged 15 to 24, victims of violence and perpetrators alike, and is notably when men's testosterone levels are at their peak. This is terrible for victims and should definitely be taken far more seriously than it is. However, the picture for women is sadly far more bleak. When men are hospitalized due to assault, the perpetrators are almost always male strangers. However, when women are hospitalized due to assault, the perpetrators are almost exclusively their male partner or spouse. This also shows why men are 3 times more likely to be hospitalized compared to women. The fact that male-on-male violence typically happens in public settings and is perpetrated by strangers means that there are not only witnesses who will call for help, but also no personal attachments between the perpetrator and victim, making it easier and more socially acceptable for the victim to seek medical attention. The majority of women who are victims of domestic abuse do not seek medical attention, whether that be physical or psychological help, because of the stigma, having so much to lose, dependence on their partner, and because there are no witnesses. Domestic violence is also typically a form of long-term and multifaceted violence that is cruel and dehumanizing. The kind of violence that
Let me pause, by the way, and clarify. I'm not disagreeing with the data she's presenting. I'm just a little confused about the man's initial comment, because what she's saying, again, I'm not disputing it, but I don't think it would contradict what he's saying in regards to why don't we tell men to have a curfew. I think it would actually support it, or rather he's supporting her argument.
typically gets men hospitalized is due to a one-off short-term incident, is not multifaceted in nature but purely physical, and is generally merely in the moment when adrenaline is high, or where the objective is not to dehumanize the person in as much as it is to mug them, humiliate them in front of others, etc. So yes, you are right. Men are 3 times more likely to be hospitalized for assault. But afterwards, they can 99% of the time go home, feel safe, and be taken care of. Women, on the other hand, are less likely to be hospitalized for assault because getting medical attention is made relatively inaccessible to them because of the reasons I listed above. After going to the hospital, they don't return to assist.
I also just want to point out all of this is a YouTube comment. She responded in a YouTube comment, Fat L, even though I'm proud of the research she put into it.
Safe home where they are looked after and cared for, they would return to more violence. Statistics on hospitalization also doesn't correlate to the number of actual victims. The fact that the majority of domestic abuse victims do not seek medical attention or hospitalization is telling. Read a book, not a chapter.
Read a book, not a chapter. I have never heard someone roast it so eloquently. Let me write this in my roasting notes. Read a book, not a chapter. I promise y'all, if I ever get into any type of public discourse or debate or whatever with Kidology again, I'm going to drop that line. I'm not going to tell her where I got it from, but I'm going to drop that line. If I'm winning. If I'm losing, I'm not going to drop it. That would be ridiculous. Roasting notes. Yeah, I got a whole notepad. I'm just waiting.
That was cute. That was good. Okay. And then about an hour ago, I got a reply from my new friend, Master Eurekius. And he says, so, men commit most of the violent crimes. What does that have to do with her sexist law? I thought we moved past that and we were talking about something broader, but clearly when you realize that you have, I guess, well, I wasn't really looking to win the argument in as much as to just make a point. The point being that things mustn't be taken out of context, which is what Master Eurekius had done. He'd taken completely out of context that data and that information, which I'm very familiar with and well versed in, coincidentally, which is why I wrote such a bomb-ass response to it. Nonetheless, he took merely what he wanted to take from that information without actually looking at the context in which that information was discovered and all the complex, multiple factors which influence it. To take this completely out of context is exactly what was done in this original video. It was completely taken out of context and everybody just went with it and went haywire. Police force and army are mostly men, the ones supposed to protect women from attackers in the first place. Indeed, the man who committed this crime was a police officer. By that logic, should we put a 6 p.m. curfew in all police officers, men and women, since it was the police who committed this crime? I get what he's saying, but it in no way relates to what I've just said in response to the question that he put.
I don't get what he's saying. What we would do is, in my mind, you would look at who perpetuates this type of crime the most. I think Abba and Preach made a better retort when they said, oh, if we saw that Black people are committing the majority of crime, would we just have a curfew for Black people? I think that would have been a much better attempt at a comeback than what he said about police. But
to me, so I don't understand where this is coming from, because I've in no way made reference to this and in no way believed that we were having a conversation about this, yet he seems to be trying to win an argument that only he knows about. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. I mean, it's not my logic that you just put forward to me. That's purely your logic and your rewriting of that typical thing that men like to say. So what you're saying is that is exactly what this is. So where do we go from here? Women are 3 times as likely to be assaulted than men. How is that more bleak? That's a massive improvement. That's a massive improvement. See, this is exactly my point. He obviously did not read what I wrote. Obviously, it's
No, he did. Nobody. Let me pause and say this. Nobody is going to. Why would I be in these comment sections reading three paragraph long essays? I'm not about to. Look, I promise y'all I respond to the comments, but I'm not about to write an essay because they're not gonna read it. They have their mind made up.
so obvious. If anything, it merely shows just how bleak things are for men. They are assaulted at 3 times the rate and no one cares. Clearly, we need a men's rights movement. If women lack the character to, in the first instance, accurately judge character of the men they involve themselves with, second, to draw boundaries early on and leave as soon as they are breached, and third, to report their aggressors to the police, then there is nothing the police can do.
Again, the case they're talking about is a woman who was assaulted by a policeman before being unalived by the same policeman, and her remains hidden. I think they were found, actually. Well, they have been found by now. It's like 2 or 3 years later. But yeah, let's let Kidology roast since she's been doing a good job of it today.
There is a lack of character and wisdom in general in society, but we all know exactly what he means. You sexist bastard. This is, for instance, a man who thinks that he is a good guy. He's one of the good guys and mustn't be branded with the...
Keep in mind what he's saying is that she should have vetted the police better to know that he was a bad policeman. I guess. I have no clue what he was trying to say.
Unsafe, dangerous, terrible, bad guy.
Well, he was saying men generally, but again, even in this case, this does not make sense. This was someone who has been vetted by the police agency. This is someone who has been background checked professionally and passes a background check, I guess, to become a police officer, and is supposed to uphold the law. This is supposed to be, if anyone you can trust, it should be this person. As we know, police aren't always people we can trust. Which we know in America especially, but specifically in this case. So it's like, anyway, it feels like the standard is not incredibly high. The requirements for women insofar as vetting isn't incredibly high. It's like nigh impossible. Who can you trust? And then you have, remember earlier what Abba and Preach said, which is something I think a lot of men echo. Oh, it's not all men, it's a few men, right? But how can you treat it like if you treat it like it's a few men and you treat most men like they won't do this to you, I feel like you're setting yourself up for failure. If you treat this like they want you to treat it, like it's most men, and you just start vetting, I guess, as if you're the FBI or the military, if you start doing that, I feel like you're going to get the retort that Abraham Preach gives. Oh, not all men, just a few. So it just feels like you can't win. And it feels like even when you're doing everything that you should be doing, they're mad. If you're not doing what you should be doing, they're mad. If you don't do what they say, it's your fault. If you do what they say, it's your fault. Like, I have no clue where you can. I have no clue where you can win as a woman under these circumstances. I purposely chose not to comment on the fact that he said women who can't vet these men lack character, as opposed to the men who are like saying the women, or like I feel like that's who I would say lacks character, not the person who failed to vet that man. But hey, he has spoken his piece.
Guys, this is literally the problem. A lot of men seem to have this misconception that somehow them personally being good guys somehow makes them not responsible in any way. And I'm not trying to play a blame game or anything. I think that there is definitely an inherent and very real flaw and problem in this sort of mentality, because this man has clearly as you'll see further on, says that he's on my side. Basically, that he's, you know, a good guy. Yet he's just told me that women, presumably including myself, considering I have boobs and a vagina, we lack character to make good judgments and character assessments of men, and that we also lack wisdom in general. I mean, wow, to have any hope of fixing that.
This is the good guy. This is the nice guy. You women lack character. If you're essayed, you lack character. You should have vetted better. I'm a nice guy. Trust me. Listen to me because I'm trying to help you. Period. Go off. Trademark TNT.
You just instruct philosophy at high school age at a minimum, and then wait 20 years and see if it has an impact. If the problem comes from women lacking the wisdom to use the legal protections they already have, then passing new ones will not have any impact. If the problem comes from women lacking the wisdom to use the legal protections they already have, then passing new ones will have no impact on them whatsoever. I know full well.
Bro, what is old Kidology? What is going on with old Kidology? What is this? I'm not critiquing. I like it. It's just different.
The evils of domestic violence. I have had more than one woman do it against me. I did not report these instances. I am a man, I would not be taken seriously, but I did at least learn how to draw boundaries, how to enforce them, and to develop a detached way of handling relationships, this allowing me to enforce my boundaries efficiently. Right, so he's basically telling me to learn from him, and that women should learn from him, because even though he didn't use the resources of going to the police, which demonstrates his lack of wisdom to use the legal protections that men already have, he nonetheless exhibits an important thing which he identified, which is character. And I should learn from that, as should every woman who is a victim of domestic abuse and violence. The 137 women who have been killed by their male loved one or male partner. The reason why they were killed is because they ultimately lacked character and wisdom. Say it loud and say it proud.
Yeah, you gotta understand how I feel about your response. Y'all have to think about how this must feel for a second, right? The idea, first of all, let me put out there that I don't disagree with the idea of encouraging vetting. We talked about that yesterday. I probably did the live, so it's not up anymore. But I don't disagree with the idea that women should vet as well as they can. I don't think we should just throw that up in the air. I do think it's important for women to be cautious of a man's character and make sure they are seeking out and eliminating people who are like blatant red flags from their pool of whoever's around them and their friends, family, or intimate partnerships. But that feels like a conversation that I would have like with a friend, maybe like if my friend's going out, I'd probably be like, okay, make sure you stay next to the street lights, make sure you're being safe. If a guy is giving you the ick, make sure, like, this feels like something I would say to my friend. Like, it doesn't feel like something I would say in response to someone being violently essayed and unalived. For this to be your immediate response, what is it called when you don't have emotion? Is that called a psychopath or sociopath or something like that? Let me Google it. Y'all know I love Google. But like that, this is your immediate response. No, I don't like it. Again, I'll use the car analogy. Someone telling me it's important for me to lock my doors and such like that, don't mind. Someone giving me this speech after I get my car. You know how weird it would be for me to go to the judge and instead of the judge, holding the person who stole my car accountable, the judge look at me and start talking to me. Why did you park your car back there? You should have parked your car in a better neighborhood. Why didn't you park by those street lamps? You could have had some light. Why did you leave your car doors unlocked? You were asking for somebody to steal from you. You lack character. Like, this feels like a weird first response to, this feels like a weird reaction to the whole situation that's going on. Someone was essayed and unalived. Your immediate response is, these women lack character. What about men? It happens to us too. Like, I'm a nice guy. Sociopath. Hello, Shaw. Welcome. Petty, do you think men have a vetting system for other men? And if they do they put it in practice in society? I have no clue. I think maybe men have some toxic vetting standards. I think men seem to be, based on the public discourse I've seen online, I think men seem to be seeking out some really, I guess the word toxic masculinity is overused, but some really toxic aspects of masculinity. Some of the more frequent conversations I've seen online have to do with a man being able to quote unquote exercise his options, which is just code for cheating on my wife or partner. Um, as well as a man being able to, men who can sleep with any woman they want being valuable. Like, so it feels like men are vetting for promiscuous and kind of sexually deviant men who lack sexual discipline, which, I mean, that is a vetting system, but that feels like the opposite of what you would want in your life. But it is what it is. A lot of these arguments feel like they reinforce the notion that men are inherently bad and evil and should be avoided. Ergo, any harm that comes to you is your own fault. Yeah, a lot of it, especially when we're talking about stuff of a sexual nature, it doesn't even have to be sexual abuse. It can be something as simple as what I just mentioned regarding men going from body to body to body and just like racking up a bunch of bodies because they see that as something valuable. And a lot of time they'll manipulate women to do that. You can see it in the what's it called? Pickup artistry, pickup culture, or I don't know what that section of YouTube is called, but they literally give men tips on how to manipulate women, how to lie to women, how to cheat on women. And when women come on these panels and start talking about the fact that, oh, I'm a single mom, but it's because this dude lied to me. I thought we were going to have a future, or how come everything was going good on the first date, and then he had sex with me, and then he ghosted me. He never texted back, and it was hard to get a hold of him. And the men will be on the panel like, you should have expected that. He's a man. As a woman, your value is in your sex, and his value is like, it feels like they're saying men are inherently deviant, and it's up to you, since we're not going to stop men from being inherently deviant and bad and evil, it's up to you to vet them better. And if you don't do that, then it's your fault. I disagree with that. I was just articulating what I think Geode is saying and what I think is reflected by the space. What are we talking about tonight? Kidology made 2 chef's kiss videos, and we are finishing up the last one, and then we're going to end the stream if nobody wants to come up. The link is pinned if anybody has any comments on anything we talked about. If not, Kidology has about 3 more minutes to give us.
22 women in Russia are killed every single day by a male partner, lacked mere wisdom and character. Domestic violence is not something only committed by one gender. The worst thing a man has done to me, got punched in the face once, physical wounds heal. But when women commit domestic violence, they make sure it has a psychological edge. Those wounds don't heal. Women are far more evil than men when it comes to domestic violence. Yes, the mortality rate shows that. Should we put a 6 p.m. curfew against women then?
Kidology just say what I be thinking. Oh my goodness. He is saying that women are more malicious than men when it comes to DV. Because even though men are like unaliving you and blowing your brains out and pushing you downstairs and giving you 2 black eyes, women will slap you softly, but it will leave psychological damage. And I'm not disagreeing, by the way, that like being abused, even if it doesn't leave a mark, is abuse. And it is like important for that to be recognized as abuse. And abuse can have a psychological aspect, but like this feels like a whataboutism as opposed to actually exploring those ideas. It feels like a whataboutism to discredit the woman who was essayed and unalived.
Safe? Are you insane? You are never.
And again, it feels weird for this to be. Why is this the place that you did this? Do you think these men like talk about men's issues in a meaningful way alone, or do y'all feel like they only pop up whenever women are talking about women's issues to say, what about men? Because that's kind of what it feels like.
Safe anywhere, anytime. Never forget that fact. Always be on guard, always be vigilant. I'm a big guy. I could mostly handle myself. I never lower my guard. A woman should be even more vigilant. This is merely human nature. There will always be bad people. Be aware of that and be ready. as best as you can be. And if home has gotten so bad, then she must go to the police and press charges. If women choose not to use them, that is not the fault of government, and short of educating the overall population to be wiser, something that they can do nothing about. I have read several books on the subject. Again, he took my ironic comment literally and just proved my point. I have read several books on this subject. Start with Stanley Milligram's Obedience to Authority. Then read Philip Zimbardo's The Lucifer Effect. Then read Hitler's Compromises, Coercion and Consensus in Nazi Germany. Can't remember the author of that one. Once you have read those books and understand evil better, then you may criticize my knowledge base.
Huh, boy, this is a tough one for me to make it through. I keep pausing. I'm sorry, y'all, but like let me go back to the start. The woman was essayed and unalived. His response was anger that the congresswoman was ironically pointing out the hypocrisy of the 6 p.m. curfew on men in the response it got, as opposed to what we frequently tell women. Actually, he's doing exactly what the congresswoman, the baroness said that the men would do, insofar as instead of holding the man accountable, he's saying, well, men gonna men. What you women should do is start policing your behavior. Like, so that was where he started off with. Then he went into the I'm a nice guy. Then he went into the what about men? And now he's going into the read all 3 of these books and then get back to me. This is like, I don't look, okay, let me pause. I don't know how different people react when a woman is essayed and unalived. This isn't how I react. I find this highly inappropriate. I have no idea why this is what you comment on a video of a woman being essayed and unalived. Read these 3 books and then you can criticize me because I'm a nice guy and you women lack character. That's why this is happening to you. Vet better. Period. Yes, he is who he is.
I mean, I had a lot to say about that, but I said the following. I am genuinely sorry that you were a victim of domestic violence. As I said, violence against men needs to be taken seriously, and it is terrible how it oftentimes isn't taken seriously. Clearly, we're not getting anywhere here. Have a nice life, good luck to you at whatever you do, and goodbye. Handshake emoji. So that's what I said because, keeping up appearances.
Kidology has really nice teeth. I guess what they say about people in Britain is false regarding the stereotype around dental hygiene. What is going on with Kidology in this video? Y'all, I promise y'all I'm about to go back and watch all of Kidology's old videos. I actually watched her very first video, or at least the first one that's public. Y'all, it was wild. It was really, really crazy. We're not gonna watch it today, but it was really crazy. I was like, who is this? Kidology, a whole different person now. Bring back 2021 Kidology. I mean, we like growth, but we're going to need a comeback for the one time. We need to reset. No more human babies for a while. Ladies, this is our power, one of our powers. Queen behavior. Yes, yes. She replied back to that man with good intentions. However, some people deserve a chapter response, not a book. Yeah, I guess she's pretty similar to her current self in that regard, because when I watched how she treats the incels who stole her identity, or the ones who were calling her the N-word, or I feel like she's really, really humanizing a lot of people who I would never. She's giving them a lot of grace, and she is giving them a lot of good intentions. And y'all, I promise you, I don't have the capacity to do what she does. but I at least commend her for keeping whatever she did at the end there at the end instead of replying to him in the comment with it. She's actually really funny. Me gusta. Ratatata. Let me see if I can find that clip one more time. If I can, okay, because we're gonna clip it. We're gonna clip it, y'all. We're gonna clip Kidology saying ratatata. It is what it is. We have to. She's from South Africa. I don't count it. Yeah. Okay, let's find what we can find. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. I'm just going to find the one part where she says ratatata so that I can clip it. I feel I'm gonna clip it and use it as a soundbite. Because it gave what needed to be given. It gave what needed to be given. Let's see.
It has been a goddamn fucking week.
Like, let's just pause. This is how she started off the video. I was like, wait a minute. What? Huh? I think she's chilled out. Yeah.
Yes. Now, Master Ire.
Okay, I'm gonna just speed through it on 2 times. While I do that, I'll drop the link one more time for anyone who's interested. And I'm going to play my outro. I think I'm gonna change my intro and outro. I want them to be a little more ghetto. Just a little bit more ghetto. Yeah. Now this ratatata.
Yes, is somebody who is very close to my heart, and so far as I have discovered that we have absolutely nothing.
Actually, I'm gonna do that offline. I don't feel like going through the search for it again. But with that being said, thank you everybody for coming. I'm sorry it was a struggle stream. I wanted to let me do a poll in the chat real quick. I'm not gonna tell y'all what the question is. Okay, I just put a poll in the chat for y'all to vote on. After y'all vote, I'm gonna end the stream. I'm not going to elaborate on the poll. I just want to see something. Lady M, welcome. You have comments on ratatata.
Hey there. Can you hear me okay?
Hello, I can hear you. Welcome.
Welcome.
How are you?
I don't have any a comment on the ratatata. I can't even do it. But I think I'll just say listening to the gentleman, the comment that she was reading, it really makes me sad. Well, let me back up for a second. We don't ever know what another group is going through until somehow we have the chance to experience it in some way, whether it be that kind of like how the congressperson turned it around. It was just like, well, why don't the men not go out, after 6 o'clock? I think we have to do a better job at doing that, which is turning it on its head and letting men who believe, and even women too, who believe the way that he believes, to see it from a different perspective in a really real way, or else it's going to continue. Part of it, I think, is human nature, in that if you don't really experience it, you're not going to really appreciate the other person's pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really disheartening to hear that, And the last thing I will say is something I said in the comment, which is I really believe that there's a reset coming. Obviously, we can all feel it. It's been coming for many decades and has accelerated in the last 10 years, 5 years. So obviously the reset will eventually happen. Maybe at the end of our lifetime, maybe in the end, maybe after we're gone. Eventually things will reset. But one thing that I do appreciate is women naturally, this is happening naturally, who are deciding that it's okay to be a plant lady, it's okay to be a cat lady or a dog lady. I don't have to have children, right? And so I think there's lots of things that work that will be working together, but one thing I think will contribute to the reset is the fact that women are just not having children because why? Nobody wants to bring children into such a chaotic place, whether it be because of financial reasons or violence or war or whatever it is, right? So I'm hoping that being more mindful and thoughtful about bringing humans here, like you don't bring humans into a situation that is so toxic. So I think slowing that down is going to contribute to allowing this thing to turn around. I mean, there's going to be other contributing factors, but I think that, and then women waking up, like for instance, 15 years ago, and especially in the Black community, the phrase that is so popular is, "Do you have a man? Why don't you have a man? Oh my gosh, you don't have a man." Like that was always the thing. You never heard of a woman having value just by herself, right? And so fast forward, 15 years later, you're actually hearing women, and more importantly, Black women, say things like, "Decenter men, I'm not having children." This is, you know what I mean? Like really waking up. Like I have never heard that before. So I don't know. Even though I'm disheartened sometimes when I hear these things, I am really encouraged because the shift is automatic and the universe is not going to continue to be imbalanced. It's going to correct itself.
So I was watching Real Talk with Yanni.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if y'all have heard of or watch her. I think a lot of my
Yeah.
subscribers watch her. And she was, to touch on what you said earlier, she was talking about the fact that a lot of women are realizing that the I wouldn't call it like baby fever, but the American dream and how it's realized for women does largely have to do with family and having children.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of women apparently are waking up and realizing, hey, this kind of seems like almost a conspiracy to, you just need people to be birthed to continue taking care of society, and you need women to believe that it's this amazing thing, and you're going to have this amazing, awesome family. And a lot of women are waking up to the reality that it's not that. So I thought that was interesting. Regarding the Great Reset, I don't know exactly what the Great Reset is. I do hear people talking about it. I guess, well, it's the waking up, right? It's the women realizing, especially Black women. And it did remind me of a video I saw today. I'm gonna put it on the screen. It's like a minute long, so it's not too tough.
You don't care that you don't care about things we care about.
Can you imagine what it would be like to be a male in this generation? AKA the first generation of men who can't just rely 100% on the patriarchy to cruise through dating. Like, this is the first generation of men in centuries who hasn't been able to just be like pieces of shit and cruise on the patriarchy. But the gag is, that's what they've been trained to do from their fathers and fathers before that. Their only dating skill set is rely on the patriarchy. And so they're kind of stuck in between worlds. One that's slowly dying and one that they don't have the skills to compete in. And instead of learning those skills for the inevitable cultural shift that's happening, they try to force people back to the old ways. Sucks to be them.
Hey, if you like this content, please like and subscribe for more. Oh, and I'm also over on this other thing.
South Park.
Uh, so
We
that
don't
was
care.
Shar Henley. If y'all are interested in her channel, that was Shar Henley. Um, so that's pretty much what I'm thinking of when I think of the Great Reset. We have two realities. We have a reality where men are able to kind of coast through dating on the patriarchy, and women have a reliability and a need for you. And we have the new world where that is not true. And there is some overlap. There are still women, I think, who are very traditional and who very much do rely on a man and who do very much ascribe to that type of traditional, I guess, patriarchal view of relationship. But that's becoming less and less. Women are becoming breadwinners more. Women are, what's in your watch list later? Stop, y'all looking too hard. But yeah, it feels like women are moving past. I don't think women generally are interested in returning to the past. So this leaves men in a place where either you need to, she said therapy, I agree, amongst other life skills that you should learn. But you either have to do the work to be able to progress in this new society, or once the old society dies out, which it is, you are left here SOL. Hopefully y'all know what SOL means. I think a lot of us are Black and have Black parents. But that's what I think of when I think of the Great Reset, a reckoning, right? These articles we're reading regarding the rise of lonely single men, articles regarding women are raising their standards and choosing to be single as opposed to be in mediocre relationships. Women who are in marriages and who have children tend to be less happy in general than single women. Bachelorettes, I guess they're called. Is it called bachelorette when the opposite of bachelor?
I think so. Yeah, I think.
So there is, it feels like there's a reckoning. It's just pushing further and further and further. And there wouldn't be a reckoning, in my opinion, if the male population does the work and learns how to operate in this new society, but they're not. So it's pushing us closer and closer to a wall. And eventually, as the men like to say, they're going to hit the wall. And then that's the reckoning, in my opinion. I don't know what happens when that wall is hit, if it's hit. But I do know that's my view on the reckoning. So
I think there'll be several hits. Like it, you know what I mean? Obviously it's not going to be one hit that's going to take the whole wall down, but a multitude of hits. I will say this, I strongly believe, and tell me what you think of this, or if this even makes sense. I believe that I'm not religious, but all of us, we have grown up around religion in some capacity, right? Even if you're not into religion.
Yeah.
But there is this concept in the Bible of law made by men, and then natural law that's natural, that's in all of us, that's really more spirit based. And the one that is the law by man is something that is it's something that you use for the meantime, right? It's a poor man's real law, like natural law, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what's happening is that we've just been living on the unnatural way of doing things, and the natural, what was supposed to be there to begin with, is trying to emerge. And I really believe that this idea of the woman being home and taking care of the kids and all that jazz, and the man being away working, that archetype, I almost think what's happening is women, I don't know if women are necessarily against that per se. The bigger issue is I want to choose. I don't want to be forced into something. And if I do this, I don't want to be abused. I don't want to be taken for granted. I don't want to be mistreated, whatever, right? I almost feel like the natural thing that will emerge is women will continue to become more independent. That will force men to be able to completely self-actualize outside of just this sort of this idea of them being the provider protector. And then somehow, once that toxic energy it sort of is pulled up and thrown out, what will probably emerge is what's natural, which is men will be serving humanity and women will be the leaders, which we are naturally, right? We're the leaders. We establish, we have the babies and we establish what we want and what we want for our children. And then the masculine energy serves it, goes out and makes it happen. So I think it will go back to being the woman as sort of the home energy, the nurturer, the mother, and the man out doing, but it'll be based on him doing based on what I actually need. I think the masculine energy has to serve something greater than himself to feel adequate, right? And the energy that it should be serving is the feminine. Like in the natural world, like we all know that the things that we know that the spirit is, or the unseen world or the universe, like there's something that created this reality, this very physical reality. That thing, that formless thing created this. So that comes first, right? And so if women are more aligned with the formless and men are more aligned with ego or form, then that means that what the natural order is for men to serve humanity, meaning a man literally serve the woman and her offspring. And it's going to look on the surface like how it looked traditionally, which is the woman at home and the man working, except it's going to be set on what it should have been authentically, which is the man he's going out. He's not going out using his ego, creating stuff that nobody needs and want and causing harm. He's creating things that the woman wants and needs and doing it to satisfy her and make things happy. That satisfies the man because he can use his energy to do these beautiful things for something greater than himself. And it satisfies the woman because she has everything that she needs and she wants. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that, but it makes sense in the way you're.
I believe it. It's a very natural thing. Like and there's always going to be outliers, right? There's always going to be homosexuality. There's always going to be, people who don't necessarily believe. But the vast majority, if you really look at it, spiritually speaking, it's going to have to come back to that. It doesn't matter what our egos want. Our egos want all sorts of things. But the spirit is stronger than the ego, which means that whatever the spirit world wants, it's going to happen in this realm. And no matter how many podcasts or commentators or opinions that are spewed, none of it matters, because whatever that energy wants, that unseen energy wants, is going to come to pass. So I'm doing all the work to align with that energy instead of like focusing on these egoic rants and, does it make sense?
Do you think there's ever been a time in history where this spirit has been aligned and where men are serving women?
No, I don't think so. And this is why I say that, because think about it. Humanity hasn't always been here. So you've had the earth, you've had the animals and all the other things in nature, and those energies, they don't have ego. So they naturally do what the spirit says. So there's no conflict. That's why everybody runs to nature for healing, right? Because it's in alignment with the spirit, right? But when humanity came, I don't know why or who or why they decided to give humanity ego, which is choice. The ability to identify with other things other than the spirit, right? However that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You lost me. I have no spiritual framework for this at all.
Well, I mean, you don't have to think about it spiritually, like sort of like hocus pocus, like the church stuff. I mean, the something that created us, universe, whatever that is. doesn't matter what you call it, whatever that created this humanity. So if humanity gets here, and humanity of all of the life forms that we see, of the plants, the sky, the sun, the animals, the grass, we the only ones with ego, right? I almost feel that whatever it was that created humanity did some sort of experiment to see what would happen if they gave us the choice to choose between ego or actually just falling in line with the spirit. And we did it. We chose ego first, and so ego, men are more aligned with ego than women are. We all have ego, but men have it stronger than women. So naturally, right, men are going to be the ones who's doing all this foolish stuff. And so usually of race, white and black, I feel that white has more ego. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. So naturally, they're the ones who's going to be doing the pillaging and all of that kind of stuff, right? So whenever things sort of readjust, and the one that is more aligned with spirit, which is going to be the woman, and of the sexes, women, and of the races, black, when black women especially, and then all women in general, when that sort of gets turned around, where the one that's aligned with spirit is more in the lead, then the ego is not serving their own minds, it's serving humanity. Right now, the ego is just serving itself.
Well, I would need you to define ego.
So in a nutshell, if you ever heard of Eckhart Tolle, he's amazing. But
okay, I told you I don't have a spiritual framework for this, and you were like, you don't need one. You
don't. I'll say this, and this is not spiritual, really. Ego is when you identify with form. And what is form? Form is anything that is. So everything is made up of energy, right? Energy is neither created nor destroyed, right? So your hand is energy, the sky is energy, the thoughts you think, that's energy, the people you see, it's energy, the book you're reading it from, all of it's energy, right? So energy takes on some form. When it comes into this dimension, it's going to be put into some form. So if a person, when you see a form and you make that your identity, instead of being identified with nothing, like just being identified with spirit, or identified sort of having a neutrality, like you're not attached to anything. If you start identifying with things, like if you identify with it lightly, it's fine.
So but when if you're saying ego is, I guess, tied to the brain capacity to envision oneself as a separate entity and to reason about oneself, then I would say, you said animals don't, but I would think that animals do have egos, specifically more advanced, maybe like primates and birds or sea mammals.
No, not egos. All of their stuff is instinct. They're going by their program. We don't go. We can create our own program. So if I have a job and identify with that job, that's okay. But if you identify with it so much that if that job is taken away, that you feel like you no longer exist, that's a problem. If you identify so much with your race that when you're that if, for instance, that's taken away or challenged, that you feel like you're nothing, or maybe the society you live in, that race is considered shit, then you feel like you're shit. And the truth is, all of it's form. We're none of it. We're formless. And so the healthy thing is to lightly identify with it. Identify with my job just enough to do it well. Right? Identify with my race for very specific practical reasons, but I'm not going to identify with it so much to the point where I think that it is me and I am it. And when it gets taken away or challenged or whatever, I'm not going to feel like I go away. I still am who I am. And the biggest thing that I feel like men identify with is the concept of manhood. This very flawed concept of manhood that they're all trying to chase and all trying to get, and it's causing a mess, just a mess. a big old mess. And women, we're taught the same thing. So we're allowing all the nonsense, and they're still chasing behind the nonsense. And the spirit is like, okay, at some point we can't keep going on this way. It's gonna have to self-correct, and it's gonna correct. So I don't think there was ever a time when men and women were completely balanced the way that it should be.
In regards to the self-correct, being that men now serve women because that serves men, I don't think I agree with that.
It's a more simplified, think about it, it's a more simplified version of what's already going on, right? Like you build schools so that people can learn, but do you really need a physical school for kids to learn? Like people have grocery stores for food, but do you actually have to have a grocery store to have food? There's all these systems that are set up to run the world. The problem is if you're making all these things and you're not considering humanity, because there's only men, women, and children. And if you're trans or whatever, you're a combination of the two, right? So either way, you can't escape man, woman, child. So if you're going to be making systems, that means that the system that you're making is in service to somebody, something, is in service to yourself and the woman and the child, because there's nobody else. So the issue is you don't need to just go out and have grocery stores. You have to know who you're serving. You can't just go out and have a water system. You have to know who you're serving. And if you're serving the planet, and if you're serving humanity, when you build the water system, you're going to build it, to make your money and to have your career or whatever. But you're going to say, what takes precedence? Humanity and the planet. So I'm not going to make these systems just to fuel my ego. I don't serve my ego. I serve the planet. I serve the woman and the child. That's what I mean. There's nobody else. Who else? Who are these other things? Who are these other beings that you're going to be serving?
What you're describing is a future where men are not selfish, or maybe where humans aren't selfish. I don't know that that's a future. It
has to be. It has to be, because nothing is working. Anybody who, if you ever experienced, I've been around anybody who's ever had a spiritual awakening or whatever of any sort, what happens is you try everything. You try drugs, you try this, you try that, you try everything until, kind of like with like religion. You try everything and then you finally try God. You always try the holy thing last, because nothing else will ever work. It'll never work. And if it works for a period of time, it won't sustain itself. It can't. You can't have a backward system and it runs forever. It's never going to happen.
Well, I don't think it's going to run forever. I think maybe it'll crumble, and then a new system that will be similar will come and then crumble. Like, I feel like what's happening now isn't new. Like, even what you mentioned regarding the manosphere and all of this crazy stuff online, it's not new. This is something that maybe like icons like Patrice O'Neal used to do in their time, and then before their time, I'm sure it was someone else.
All of it is crumbling. It's been crumbling over time. So there's always going to be people working to break it down. Jesus came. You can think about all the other people who have come to chip away. They say Jesus was technically a feminist, right, of his time. If you think about the types of things that he did for women, he was kind of a feminist, right? So it's going to take people coming until that wall shatters. And even if you don't believe that men will serve women, who will they be serving? Where there's nobody else. Like it's going to be you, your wife, and your child. It's going to be man, woman, and child. So it will, even if you don't believe in it in the sort of traditional sense, it's a very natural thing to do, because if you build a water system, you're building it for humans to use, and there's only man, woman, and child who's going to use it. So that's still service. Does that make sense? I've been talking for a really long time, so I can step down right away, but I hope I didn't bore you too much and that everybody didn't fall asleep.
No, it's fine. I think this is above my head. I'll have to rewatch, because I also might just be tired.
You're probably tired. So I'm gonna step down. Hey, LB.
Hey, I actually came to join you.
Oh, okay.
But I think that the idea that you're saying is very interesting, which is why I'm here. But also,
Oops.
I was
My
like, where
bad.
did I go? I think it's just a reframing of pretty much what the men are saying on the other end of the spectrum out here in these YouTube streets. Like, because what it really is we're redefining leadership, and well, not even redefining, we're like, from their perspective, it looks like we're redefining leadership and redefining the ideas of serving, because in their mind, a woman being in the home is serving a man, but in nature, the woman being at home is leading the man, and the man going out is serving the woman. And I think it's just like two different ends of a similar coin. And then the other part is from their perspective, it probably looks like redefining leadership, because we always think of leadership as the person in charge, the person ahead, the person leading the charge. But the true leader is the strategist. And who is the strategist of the household?
The woman, yeah.
So I think that it's coming across really abrasive to men. And honestly, like, when I first heard this in college, I think it was like 2010, the first time I heard that God was a woman. And I was like, y'all crazy. You're a cult. Please leave me alone. But in hindsight, I'm like, I could see there being something to that. And I don't think that it should be discredited. And I think that the world we live in, because it's a patriarchy, encourages us to see women as less than. And because we see women as less than, we can't even imagine that a woman could be God, or that God could be non-binary.
You know what's interesting too?
Like,
go ahead.
Yeah, just my personal opinion, it could be either. But if I was to pick a gender out of the two that I thought aligned more with nature and God, I would probably say women. But I think that it may be like a non-binary thing. But that even in the Bible itself, it says we were made in their image, not in his image. And that's just a translation issue.
You know what's interesting too is I totally agree with you. The one thing I was going to add, you trigger something that I forgot to say before, which is the very thing that the patriarchy is trying to achieve, but achieve poorly, they will get by surrendering the patriarchy, by letting women say, this is what I want. Can you get this for me? Doesn't make sense. It's like they're trying to do what they're made to do, but they can't do it because they have an ideal of what it's supposed to be, and that is flawed. So if the reset happens, they will get the very thing that they've always wanted. It's kind of like you always want peace, right? Peace is a non-physical. Well, it's a form, but it's a non-physical thing to our senses. And so you're looking for peace, and you have an idea of what peace is. You think peace is having lots of money, or having this, or having that, and then you go get all those things, and peace still isn't there, right? And then somebody says, "Come to this retreat. Come see a shaman. You will have peace." And you look at it, and you're like, "There's no way that that's really peace." So I'm going to go and try drugs. I'm going to try this, try that, and finally you try everything, and nothing works. And finally, when that same energy says, come to this retreat, come do yoga, come do whatever, and you finally do it, and you feel peace, and you're like, well, shit, this is what I've been trying to get to the whole time, right? So I think that's the original sin, is that we somehow something in us always know that women lead, men serve. So it's like a queen and a knight. That's how I look at it. The queen knows what she wants, and the knight serves honorably, right? And I feel like the original sin was with Lilith, the sort of Lilith, Eve, Adam thing.
Yeah.
I think that Lilith was really that girl. She was that girl. She was the leader. But when she stepped away and then Eve was brought in. That was the unhealthy dynamic, and what we're trying to fight to do is get that Lilith energy back. Eve has got to go.
That is really interesting, and you know you're gonna lose the Christians on that one, right?
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sorry, but and disregard the Lilith Eve thing. If you're Christian, disregard it. The principle is still the
I
same.
get what you're saying about the energies, but I was like, you're gonna lose the Christians on that one.
Yeah.
But so I think that another thing that if we're talking spirit versus flesh, like, and not just in a biblical sense, I think the whole idea of like leadership in like unnatural power, if that makes sense, is corruptive as well, because I think that we're so fixated on who has control, who has power, who's on top, that we don't take the time to focus on things that matter, like love and respect. And I think that naturally, I don't know if I believe in gender roles like the man do this, the woman do that, or whatever, but I think that more so, I think that there is feminine and masculine energy that has different qualities that come with it, and I don't think you have to be a man or a woman to carry that energy.
I agree with that. I
think that the feminine energy is more of the natural, like, nurture, and the masculine energy is the natural provider. And I think that everybody's saying the same thing, but they're manipulating it to fit their power dynamic. So like the men like say, oh, we're the lead because we go and get the stuff, and the women are saying like, well, we're the lead because like, what would you do with the stuff if we weren't here to strategize, or how would you get the stuff if like you didn't
if we don't tell you what we want, then you're creating something that has nothing to do with the actual people that you're serving. You know what I mean?
I think maybe I'm thinking about the word lead differently. Maybe y'all would define it under like the same, I guess, philosophical perspective y'all are coming from. I could say something like, oh, it was really the slaves who were leading white people, because white people wouldn't know how to wash their butt without us. If they could get the crops, but they wouldn't be able to gather them without us. But I wouldn't call that leadership. I would, like, even the way you're describing, okay, the men can go out and get the stuff, but without me to cook it and to prepare it, what would
you just went left with that, Petty.
Yeah, this feels like slavery to me. I wouldn't call that leadership. I would call it the leader delegating the work to you. I can't see this. My definition of leadership is going to be that the person who historically is able to say, it is legal for me to beat you, I'm going to create a law so that I can unalive you if I see.
That's not leadership.
I'm going to define this as leadership in the broader society.
Yeah, I think that in the broader society, leadership is interchangeable with domination, and I think that in natural law, leadership has nothing to do with domination. And then as far as the slave analogy, it doesn't really work because it's not like race isn't like part of natural, like it's not a natural thing. It's a man-made thing. Like you could say that about gender as well, but the energies that we feel, the different energies that we call masculine, feminine, or like two-spirit, like whatever you call those energies are real. There is no realness behind race and in some of the different isms that come up in society.
So y'all are talking about the energy, and I guess natural law would be laws of morality.
Nope, not morality. That's another thing. Morality is law. So morals, it's fine to have morals, but we can all have a different set of morals.
So when I say natural law, I meant, so what are you saying when you say natural law? Because
natural,
about laws of morality.
Natural law would be like the balances that are present in nature that you don't even have to prove because they're constant. There's going to be constant examples of how things work. Like, so like the balance between the elements, the balance between feminine and masculine, whatever energy, the balance between the sun and the moon. Like there's going to be natural laws that accompany these things because they are created kind of like in a symbiotic way by whatever you want to call the creator, or if you look at it as like we're all one like stream of consciousness or one energy that has been, I guess, divided or manifested in different ways. It's getting really metaphysical, but
so in the natural law, what is the woman's purpose and the man's purpose?
See, I don't think I personally believe in the woman's purpose and the man's purpose being part of nature.
I think what you were saying before was right, LB. When we say men and women because women tend to be more feminine, and and men tend to be more masculine, but it's really about the masculine energy versus the feminine energy. It really isn't gendered, and it really isn't race.
Yeah, like honestly, if you look at people who run stuff, who is it really? It's usually like Black women and gay people. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, like when we we tap out of, we're really the backbone of humanity, not just the community, but humanity.
A lot of us are in touch with at least like 50% feminine energy. Like, not saying that gay guys are more feminine or like feminine leaning, because they could be very much masculine, but they know how to tap into the feminine energy as well, because they have been kind of forced into it in our society.
But have you noticed, I've noticed even with gay couples, have you noticed that oftentimes, whether it be with men or women, not always, but a lot of times you'll see one that takes more of a masculine energy and the other one take more of a feminine energy. And when you have that, it's like, it's still the same thing. The bodies are different from what we traditionally think about men and women and all of that, but the energies are still the same.
Yeah, because the energies will always balance out. Same as you could have like a same-sex couple that both people have balanced energy, and so they balance each other out. But yeah, there's usually one femme or masculining, and then there's but there can also be like two balanced people that come together, or people that, like, for instance, this is gonna go, I'll stop myself before I go way too far, but like, so my leaning is about like 70% feminine and 30% masculine, right? So if I had the perfect match for me, they would be masculine leaning, but have like a bit of femininity to them, unless I, for some reason, balanced out. But I think that's just my nature. But I think that we attract the other part because the feminine and masculine come together to make a whole, if that makes sense.
Yep, it makes perfect sense.
Which is our humanity.
So y'all said y'all wouldn't define a man in a woman's role. What is the masculine role and the feminine role?
I would say that the masculine role serves, and the feminine role, the feminine has to know itself and know what it needs and know what it wants. It's the vision. It's, I want this kind of house, honey. I want this kind of world. This is what will make me and the kids happy. This is what I need. That's why it's important for women or people.
So for example, if I had goals and aspirations and like a plan for my life, like, okay, I want to go to college. I want to get a nice career field. I want to have children around this time. This is me operating in the feminine.
Not quite. Maybe. It depends. So what's masculine is the form, is what you're choosing to do. The masculine energy of that is, okay, the feminine would be, I want to be fulfilled. I want to be happy. I want to be at peace. I want to be surrounded by love. I want the sort of non-physical things, right?
Like something like therapy or counseling would be me operating in my feminine.
No. Listen to what I'm saying. Remember, the form that you're taking to get to peace is the masculine part of it. So if I want to feel peace, that's me knowing within myself what I want and what I need. That's non-physical, right? And then in order to realize the peace, you got to bring in the masculine. The masculine has to bring it into form. So the form that it takes may be you move to the country, or you are in therapy, or you get rid of toxic people, or whatever. The action is the masculine, the service, but you can't serve nothing. You have to serve a purpose. So it's like, what is the purpose is more of the feminine. Does that make sense?
No. So going to therapy would be masculine. The therapy resulting in me being knowing myself better. The knowing myself better would be feminine.
The being is feminine. The doing is masculine. What do you want to be? What do you want to be like? What do you need? What's in your spirit? What's in your heart? That's more feminine. And then making it happen is masculine.
So me saying I need to
if you take gender out of it, that's masculine and feminine in your scenario.
So me saying I want to be more intelligent is feminine. Me going to school to become more intelligent is masculine.
That's not. That still is. I wouldn't say that one's hard to call. I don't want to. I still think we're missing it with that example.
Could you give me an example?
So,
No, I'm sorry. Let me think. Let me sort of come up with a better way to say it, and I'll let LB go. And while I sort of process a way to say it.
Okay, LB.
Okay, so I think like what we're saying is kind of crossing paths, but not exactly the same. But so as far as masculine, feminine energy, I think they're just like it's like kind of like a yin yang type thing. It's just balancing energies. And we name it one thing or another just based off of like the words that we've developed, and the language we've developed.
The word masculine and feminine is like I can discard this. This is more like well-roundedness.
Yeah, so we're trying to describe something that's spiritual and that's non-tangible with tangible words. And I think that's what's like the issue is. It's more so you would have to fill it in. I understand that we're in a very like proof-driven society, and that spiritual things don't make logical sense all the time. So I don't know if that can be. It's like I don't think it's like a science that can be proven. I think it's more like a truth that can be known if you're in touch with your spiritual side. And then I wanted to address something. So somebody in the I think it was Production Inquiry said like white men definitely run this. Okay, yes, white men are on top of the power structure, but who are the consumers and who are the builders? The builders and the consumers are the people that are driving the market, and the builders and the consumers are where the real power lies, because the white man that's sitting at the top of the power structure does not have that power if we are not producing and if we are not building. So like it's kind of like a bottom-up power reality. But because the person at top has the money and the resources and what we call power in our society, we see them as a person in power. But the truth is that we, the builders and the producers and the consumers, have the actual power. And our whole entire structure, especially this capitalist structure, relies on us not realizing our power, which to me is more of a natural thing. And there's plenty of books on this. I wrote papers on this in college. There's this, I'm trying to remember, it was when I was studying Theodore Adorno and Marxist philosophy, but which everybody's gonna be like, oh my God, socialist. But it's this idea of we have like a disassociation from our products, and our product is what's passing that power along to the other people. I don't know how to explain it. I had to come back with like actual books and stuff, but I do have them. And then the other thing is like with somebody with the dual energies or the energy leaning one way or another, someone said like, sis, that person would be bi, maybe, but you don't want to have that conversation with me, because I honestly believe that that being on one side or the other of the sexuality spectrum strictly is unnatural. That's my personal belief. But I'm gonna leave that alone because I know how people feel about their sexuality.
Yeah. Well, I think the best way to kind of leave sexuality out of it is just the energy. It's gonna be there, whether the balance is gonna have to happen, whether it's 2 men, 2 women, man and woman, man 6. It don't matter. That it's the energetics that matters the most. But, whew.
Yeah, I'm gonna let it go after this, but like, so with production inquiry, yes, white people build and white people consume as well, but like the base of the structure is where the power is. Like, it's where the strength is. It's where the structure is, because if you take away the base of the pyramid, the whole thing falls. If you take away the legs of the table, it's a board on the floor. Like, if you take out the Black people, if you take out the women, if you take out the gay people, things are going to start to fall apart. You're going to be on a table with like 3 legs. You're going to be playing, what is that thing called? Not Tetris, but the one where you pull the sticks out the blocks.
Jenga? Wait, is it Jenga?
Yeah, you're going to be playing Jenga with the pyramid. Like, it's just, it doesn't work without the power of the gays, of the Blacks, of the
women,
pretty much of the minorities, which is where the real power lies.
Yep.
But
Well
I
said.
will let that go, because I know that we've gone far left and you're sleepy and your audience is probably like, what the hell is happening? But yeah.
Well said, LB. Petty, thank you so much for letting me come up. And I wasn't planning to go left, but thank you.
Thank you both. I hope to see y'all again next weekend.
Nice talking to you, LB.
Nice talking to you guys.
Nice.
Okay. Well, it's past my bedtime, so I'm not gonna comment on any of that at all. Nope, nothing. Thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate y'all. Good night, Alicia, if you haven't left already, and good night to everyone else. Make sure you leave a like on the video if you have not already. Subscribe if you're not already. I think y'all are all subscribed. We're gonna be monetized again sometime this week, so yay. And yeah, I think I'll end on that. I wasn't sleeping. I was resting my eyes. But good night, everybody.